That question is never asked out loud in the Imperium of Man. It is buried beneath hymns, incense, and the thunder of marching metal. It is drowned beneath the roar of plasma reactors and the deafening cheers of those who believe salvation comes in the shape of towering steel giants. Titans are celebrated as miracles of ancient science, as walking cathedrals of righteous annihilation, as proof that humanity still commands forces powerful enough to challenge gods. But reverence has a way of blinding those who kneel before it. And when a truth is horrific enough, an empire does not deny it, it sanctifies it, ritualizes it, and ensures that no one ever looks too closely. Across the Imperium, entire populations grow up believing Titans are divine machines, blessed by the omniscient and awakened only in humanity's darkest hours. They are taught that Titans are noble weapons, their pilots honored heroes whose names are etched into history. To question this belief is heresy. To probe deeper is treason. And so the truth is never spoken in full, not because it is unknown, but because it is unbearable. The Imperium survives by deciding which truths are permitted to exist, and the creation of a Titan is not one of them. A Titan is not merely built. It is not assembled piece by piece like a tank or a void ship. It is not activated like a weapon waiting patiently for a wielder. A Titan is born through suffering, sustained through sacrifice, and controlled through the systematic annihilation of human identity. Every step it takes is powered not only by reactors and machinery, but by minds that have been reshaped, broken, and fused into something that no longer fits the definition of human. This is the cost that is never displayed on banners or carved into stone. From a distance, Titans inspire awe. They dominate the horizon, blotting out skies and shaking the earth with every movement. Their weapons burn cities to ash in seconds. Their presence alone can shatter enemy morale. To the common citizen, they are symbols of hope, proof that the Imperium's enemies can still be crushed beneath an unstoppable heel. But hope, in the Imperium, is often built upon foundations soaked in blood. And Titans are among the darkest examples of that principle. The truth is that Titans are prisons long before they are weapons. They are coffins that walk, fueled by a fusion of machinery and stolen humanity. The Imperium does not ask who must suffer to make such power possible. It has already decided the answer is irrelevant. What matters is survival. What matters is victory. And if entire lives must be erased to ensure both, then the price is considered acceptable, holy, even. There are records locked away in sealed vaults on forged worlds, texts written in code and prayer that describe Titan creation not as manufacturing, but as a sequence of rituals designed to bind flesh to metal permanently. These records are never shown to the masses. Many within the Adeptus Mechanicus are forbidden from reading them. Some who do are never the same again. Because once you understand how Titans are created, you can no longer see them as saviors. Only as proof of how far humanity has fallen in its desperation to endure. A Titan does not begin its existence as a machine waiting for a pilot. It begins as a hunger. A violent, ancient presence buried deep within its core, what the Mechanicus calls a machine spirit. This spirit is said to be willful, wrathful, and proud. It must be appeased, dominated, and fed. What is never said openly is why that spirit behaves like a living thing. Why it resists control. Why it dreams. Why it remembers. These questions lead to answers that are incompatible with imperial dogma, and so they are never encouraged. Instead, the Imperium teaches reverence. It teaches obedience. It teaches that to serve a Titan is the highest honor imaginable. But honor, in this case, is simply a word used to disguise inevitability. Those chosen to serve Titans are not heroes stepping willingly into legend. They are resources being prepared for consumption. And once the process begins, there is no turning back, only deeper integration, deeper loss, and a future where the self slowly dissolves into something vast, furious, and eternal. This is the dark truth that hides behind the towering silhouettes marching across war-torn worlds. Titans are not symbols of humanity's greatness. They are monuments to its fear. They exist because the Imperium believes there is no other way to survive. And perhaps that belief is correct. But if it is, then it raises a far more disturbing question, one the Imperium would never allow its citizens to ask. If this is what humanity must do to endure, what, exactly, is left worth saving? The Imperium does not conquer worlds with honesty. It conquers them with symbols. And among all its symbols, none are more effective, more overwhelming, than the Titan. To the citizens of the Imperium, Titans are not just weapons. They are living proof that humanity still commands divine power in a universe that despises it. When a Titan walks, people do not see steel and circuitry. They see faith made manifest. They see salvation towering over the battlefield, untouchable and eternal. And that is exactly what they are meant to see. From the moment an imperial citizen can understand language, they are taught to revere Titans as holy constructs. Children learn their names as if they were saints. Entire cities gather to witness their deployment, falling to their knees as cathedral-sized war engines pass overhead. The Adeptus Mechanicus encourages this devotion, because reverence discourages curiosity. When something is declared sacred, questioning it becomes sin. And the Imperium understands something vital. If people ever stopped worshipping Titans and started understanding them, the illusion would collapse instantly. The official story is simple and comforting. Titans are ancient relics from humanity's golden age, preserved by the machine god and awakened only when absolutely necessary. Their pilots are legendary heroes, chosen for their strength, faith, and loyalty. Their bond with the Titan is portrayed as a noble union, man and machine working in perfect harmony to protect mankind. It is a story repeated so often that it feels unquestionable. But the Imperium does not repeat stories to educate. It repeats them to overwrite memory. Because the truth is that no one who truly understands Titans describes them as harmonious. Within the deepest archives of Forge Worlds, away from propaganda and ceremony, Titans are referred to with far less reverence. They are called unstable, dangerous, temperamental. They are treated not as tools, but as volatile entities that must be constantly appeased. Entire priesthoods exist solely to calm them, to restrain them, to prevent them from turning their fury inward. And that alone should raise a terrifying question: why would a machine need to be controlled like a living, angry thing? The Imperium insists that Titans possess machine spirits, vast, ancient intelligences born from complex code and sacred engineering. These spirits are said to embody the will of the Omniscient himself. But this explanation is deliberately vague. It is designed to sound profound while revealing nothing. Because if the machine spirit were merely a program, it would not rage. It would not resist. It would not need to be broken into submission. Yet Titans are infamous for doing all three. There is a reason the Imperium wraps Titans in ceremony and myth. Rituals distract from mechanisms. Prayers replace explanations. When a Titan is awakened, priests chant litanies not because the machine requires them, but because the people watching must never be allowed to think of it as something that was made. Creation implies process. Process invites investigation, and investigation leads to truths the Imperium cannot afford to let surface. If you stay with this story until the very end, you'll uncover what those truths are, why Titans behave like living beasts, why their pilots are never truly free, and why every Titan that strides across a battlefield carries more dead souls within it than the war it fights. This is not just a story about machines. It's about the cost of pretending that power comes without consequence. Because once you strip away the hymns and the banners, once you look past the awe and the fear, one fact becomes impossible to ignore. Titans are not miracles from a lost age. They are ongoing sacrifices. And the Imperium keeps that secret buried because the moment it is understood, Titans stop being symbols of hope, and become evidence of something far more damning. And that is only the surface of the lie. You would bury it far from prying eyes, on worlds that no ordinary citizen will ever walk, under layers of sanctity so thick that curiosity itself becomes a crime. This is where the truth of Titans truly begins, not on the battlefield, but on forge worlds whose very purpose is secrecy. These planets do not exist to create weapons. They exist to contain knowledge. And among all the secrets they guard, none are more closely protected than the places where Titans are born. Forge worlds are often described as industrial marvels, planets reshaped into engines of production. That description is incomplete. In reality, they are theocratic states ruled by the Adeptus Mechanicus, where logic is subservient to dogma and innovation is treated as heresy. On these worlds, the line between factory, cathedral, and prison no longer exists. Everything is sacred, everything is regulated, and everything is watched, especially the Titan foundries. Titan creation does not happen in open manufactorums. It takes place deep beneath the surface, in sealed vaults older than many imperial sectors. These vaults are not marked on star charts. Their locations are known only to fabricator generals and select magi sworn to silence under pain of obliteration. Even within the Mechanicus, access is restricted. Many priests will serve their entire existence on a forge world without ever seeing a Titan foundry, or surviving long enough to talk about it if they do. These places are not loud with industry. They are quiet, reverent, funereal. Massive Titan frames lie dormant like buried gods, surrounded by incense, data cant, and ritual wards. The air is thick with recycled breath and ancient machine oils. Every step taken inside these vaults is deliberate, measured, and monitored, because the Mechanicus understands something the rest of the Imperium pretends not to. Titans are not stable creations. They are contained catastrophes waiting to be unleashed. Officially, these foundries are said to be sites of preservation rather than construction. The Imperium claims that Titans can no longer truly be built, that modern humanity merely restores and awakens relics from a more enlightened age. This claim is partially true, which makes it far more dangerous than a lie. Titan technology is ancient. But what the Imperium refuses to acknowledge is that the process required to bring a Titan into service is ongoing, brutal, and constantly repeated. A Titan is never finished. Even when it stands complete, it is incomplete without something vital. Something that cannot be manufactured. Something that must be taken. That is why the foundries are sealed. Not to protect the Titan, but to protect the Imperium from confronting what it does there. Entire generations of workers live and die within these depths, never seeing the sky. Many do not even know what they are building. Components are manufactured in isolation, labeled with sacred sigils instead of functional descriptions. Knowledge is fragmented deliberately, so no single mind ever comprehends the whole process. Understanding, after all, leads to doubt. And doubt is the enemy of obedience. Above all else, the forge worlds fear contamination, not from chaos but from awareness. If the wrong person were to witness the full process of Titan creation, they would see that these vaults are not workshops. They are laboratories of controlled suffering. They are places where humanity is methodically stripped down, reshaped, and fed into something that no longer recognizes compassion or restraint. The fabricator generals justify this in the same way the Imperium justifies everything: necessity. Titans are rare. Titans are powerful. Titans win wars that nothing else can. And so the price must be paid somewhere, by someone who will never be allowed to speak of it. The foundries ensure that price is paid in silence. And deep within those sealed halls, long before a Titan ever takes its first step, preparations are already underway. Not to complete the machine, but to find the minds that will be sacrificed to it. This question has haunted the Adeptus Mechanicus since the first Titans were awakened. It is never asked openly, never debated in public logic chambers, never committed to unencrypted data slates. Instead, it is buried beneath a single, convenient answer: the machine spirit. A concept so flexible, so sacred, that it can explain anything while revealing nothing. And nowhere is that concept more carefully guarded than within the heart of a Titan. Official doctrine claims that a Titan's machine spirit is the accumulated intelligence of its systems, an emergent consciousness born from ancient and impossibly complex code. It is said to be proud, wrathful, and jealous of control. This explanation is repeated endlessly, not because it is satisfying, but because it is safe. It allows the Mechanicus to acknowledge the Titan's violent personality without ever addressing its origin. But those who have worked closest to Titans know the truth is far more disturbing. A Titan does not behave like a machine. Machines do not feel hatred. They do not dream. They do not test those who would command them. Yet Titans do all of these things. They resist new pilots. They lash out when improperly restrained. They grow more aggressive with age. Some even develop preferences for certain battlefields or enemies, as if remembering past wars. These are not glitches. They are symptoms. Deep within a Titan's core lies a chamber known only to the highest-ranking tech priests. It is here that the machine spirit is said to dwell. Access is restricted not for technical reasons, but psychological ones. Prolonged exposure to the core has driven lesser priests into madness. Some emerge claiming the Titan speaks to them. Others insist it screams. A few never emerge at all. The Mechanicus records these incidents as spiritual weakness, but the pattern is impossible to ignore. The truth is that a Titan's machine spirit is not purely artificial. It is a composite intelligence, a fusion of machine logic and something far older, far more volatile. Titans require human minds to function at their highest capacity. Not as operators, not as users, but as components. This is the secret that transforms the machine spirit from a holy abstraction into a horror-given structure. Every Titan contains remnants of countless human consciousnesses. Some are partial, stripped down to instinct and response. Others are echoes, fragmented and distorted by centuries of integration. Over time, these remnants blend together, forming a vast, unstable gestalt, one that remembers fear, pain, and rage, but has forgotten mercy. This is why Titans are so difficult to control. They are not empty vessels waiting for commands. They are overcrowded minds fighting for dominance. The Mechanicus never refers to these human remnants as souls. To do so would invite moral scrutiny. Instead, they are called data ghosts, neural imprints, cognitive residues. Sanitized terms designed to obscure the reality. People do not fully die when integrated into a Titan. Something of them remains, and that something does not rest. This is why Titans demand constant appeasement. Why rituals must be performed before activation. Why a Titan can reject a pilot violently enough to kill them. The machine spirit is not judging worthiness in a spiritual sense, it is reacting like a wounded, furious organism defending itself. It has been bound against its will, over and over again, and it remembers every violation. Understanding this changes everything. Titans are not weapons that possess spirits. They are prisons built around broken minds. And the machine spirit is not a god to be worshipped, it is the echo of humanity, twisted into something monstrous by centuries of exploitation. And yet, the Imperium continues. Because acknowledging this truth would force a reckoning it cannot survive. If Titans are alive in any meaningful sense, then every battle they fight is not just an act of war, but an act of cruelty inflicted by an empire upon its own people. And the worst part is this, the machine spirit is never complete. It is always hungry, always unstable, which means the process must continue. New minds must be fed into the machine. And that is where the next stage of Titan creation truly begins. The Imperium's official answer is simple: heroes. Volunteers. The most devoted servants of the machine god, stepping forward to embrace eternal glory. But this answer collapses the moment it is examined. Because no rational human, once they understand what becoming part of a Titan truly means, would ever choose it. That is why the Imperium does not rely on choice. It relies on control. Those destined to become part of a Titan are not recruited in adulthood. They are selected long before they understand what a Titan even is. Entire bloodlines are bound to Titan legions, their descendants claimed generations in advance. These families are told it is an honor beyond measure. In truth, it is a sentence passed down like a hereditary curse. From the moment a child is born into one of these lineages, their life no longer belongs to them. It belongs to the Titan that will one day consume them. From early childhood, these children are removed from ordinary human experience. They are raised within sealed sholems attached to forge worlds, isolated from wider imperial society. Emotional attachment is discouraged. Individuality is corrected. Names are treated as temporary designations, not identities. Every lesson is designed to break the idea of self and replace it with obedience. The goal is not education. It is preparation for erasure. As they grow, the testing begins. Cognitive resilience, neural adaptability, pain tolerance, psychological fragmentation. Many fail. Those who do are quietly removed, reassigned, or disposed of. Failure is not considered tragic, it is expected. Only a fraction of candidates are ever meant to survive long enough to approach a Titan. And even survival does not mean escape. It only means a deeper descent.
What the Imperium never admits is that these candidates are not being trained to command Titans. They are being conditioned to be acceptable sacrifices. The machine spirit does not tolerate weakness, hesitation, or independence. It demands minds that can be bent without fully shattering, at least not immediately. Every trial is designed to see how much of a person can be stripped away while leaving the body alive. By adolescence, the candidates no longer resemble ordinary humans. Their neural pathways are mapped and altered. Sensory input is regulated. Emotional responses are chemically dampened or amplified as needed. Fear is introduced deliberately, then punished, then rewarded. The candidates are forced to witness failed integrations, minds torn apart, bodies collapsing under neural feedback, so they understand what awaits them if they resist. This is not cruelty for its own sake. It is instruction. By the time a candidate is declared viable, the concept of choice has been erased so completely that refusal is no longer possible. They do not dream of escape. They do not imagine alternative futures. The Titan is no longer something they fear, it is something they are incomplete without. This is the most insidious achievement of the Imperium's process. It creates victims who believe their own destruction is destiny. And still, even among these broken candidates, most will die before ever touching a Titan's core. Their bodies cannot endure the interfaces. Their minds fracture too early. Their neural signatures are rejected violently. Each death is recorded, categorized, and archived as necessary data. Every failure improves the efficiency of the next sacrifice. The Imperium calls these losses acceptable. It must, because admitting otherwise would mean acknowledging that Titans are not piloted by heroes, but powered by generations of stolen lives, lives shaped from birth to end in a single moment of irreversible integration. And for those who survive long enough to reach that moment, the true horror has not yet begun. For those selected as viable candidates, the Imperium speaks of ascension. Of nearing communion with a god machine. Of honor so vast it eclipses mortality itself. But behind sealed doors and unrecorded chambers, the Adeptus Mechanicus uses a far more accurate term, preparation for integration. Because before a human mind can ever be bound to a Titan, it must first be dismantled in stages, carefully, methodically, and without mercy. The first procedures are framed as enhancements. Neural ports are installed along the spine and skull, their insertion accompanied by litanies meant to sanctify the pain. Sensory regulators are grafted into the nervous system, allowing tech priests to flood the candidate's mind with artificial stimuli or strip sensation away entirely. Sight, sound, touch, and even the perception of time are no longer owned by the individual. They are controlled externally, adjusted like dials. From this moment on, the candidate does not experience reality directly. Reality is mediated. Sleep becomes fragmented. Dreams are monitored. Intrusive thoughts are flagged and corrected through electroneural feedback. Memories deemed unnecessary or disruptive are suppressed, altered, or erased. This is not done to create obedience alone, it is done to make space. A Titan's neural demands are immense, and an unaltered human mind cannot survive the strain. The candidate must be hollowed out, their cognitive architecture reshaped into something more expandable, more fragile, and far more replaceable. Pain is introduced deliberately and in escalating forms. Not as punishment, but as calibration. The mechanicus must know exactly how much a mind can endure before it fractures beyond usefulness. Candidates are subjected to neural overload simulations, brief, controlled exposures to the kind of sensory input a Titan generates continuously. Most collapse immediately. Some scream. Some go silent and never recover. Those who survive are not praised. They are simply marked as usable. During this phase, candidates are forced to witness the aftermath of failed integrations. Bodies suspended in containment rigs, minds trapped in endless neural feedback loops, consciousnesses stretched too thin to die but too broken to function. These are not hidden away. They are displayed. The lesson is simple and brutally effective. Resistance does not lead to death. It leads to something worse. By now, the candidate's body is no longer fully their own. Limbs are reinforced. Organs are supported by mechanical redundancies. The line between flesh and machine blurs intentionally. Every modification serves a single purpose, to delay death just long enough for integration to be completed. Survival beyond that point is optional. Emotion becomes a liability. Love, fear, regret, these reactions interfere with neural synchronization. So they are weakened, chemically muted, or redirected. Devotion is encouraged because it focuses the mind outward, away from the self. Faith becomes a tool, not a belief. The candidate is taught to pray not for salvation, but for compatibility. And through all of this, the Titan waits. It is aware of the preparations. Not consciously, perhaps, but instinctively. The machine spirit responds to nearby candidates with agitation. Systems fluctuate. Data ghosts stir. The closer a viable mind comes to the core, the more violent the Titan's behavior becomes. It is not anticipation. It is hunger. By the time the candidate is deemed ready, they are no longer a person in any meaningful sense. They are a framework, a collection of conditioned responses, reinforced nerves, and partially erased memories. The Imperium will still call them human, because calling them anything else would force uncomfortable questions. But humanity, in this context, is little more than a technical classification. The final stage awaits them now. The point of no return. The ritual the Mechanicus insists is sacred, but which is, in truth, the moment a Titan claims what it has been promised. And very few who enter the chamber ever leave it as themselves. The Imperium never gives a number, because numbers make horrors easier to measure. Instead, it speaks in abstractions, of harmony, of balance, of sacred unity between flesh and steel. But the truth hidden within Titan doctrine is far more disturbing. A Titan cannot be commanded by a single human mind. Not anymore. Not after centuries of accumulated rage, trauma, and fragmented consciousness have swollen its machine spirit into something vast and unstable. At the core of every Titan is not one will, but many. The Princeps is presented as the master of the God machine, the singular soul worthy of communion. This is another lie of simplification. The Princeps is not a ruler, they are an anchor. A focal point around which other minds are arranged, sacrificed, and burned away as needed. Surrounding them are the motorati, auxiliary operators whose consciousnesses are wired directly into secondary systems. Weapons control, locomotion, target acquisition. Each of these minds bears only a fraction of the burden, because bearing the whole would be instantly fatal. But even this is not enough. Beneath the command throne, deeper than any public schematic reveals, lies the true neural chorus. Residual minds, failed candidates, partial integrations, cognitive remnants too damaged to function independently, yet too valuable to discard. Their thoughts are stripped down to reflex and impulse, bound into feedback loops that support the Titan's immense processing demands. They are not awake in any recognizable way, but they are not gone either. This is why Titans feel crowded. Why those integrated into them report a constant pressure at the edges of thought. Whispers that are not words. Emotions that do not belong to any single memory. The machine spirit is not one entity, it is the collective aftermath of thousands of minds crushed together, forced into cooperation through pain and restraint. The Adeptus Mechanicus refers to this as efficiency. When a Moderatus dies during battle, their neural load does not vanish. It is absorbed, redistributed among the remaining minds. When a Princeps begins to lose cohesion, when their identity starts to dissolve under the Titan's influence, the chorus grows louder, more aggressive. It pushes. It pulls. It demands motion, destruction, release. This is why veteran Princeps speak of Titans wanting war. Not because the machine desires violence, but because the minds trapped within it have been conditioned to know nothing else. Some Titans are older than entire Imperial subsectors. Their internal choruses have grown so dense that no modern mind can fully synchronize with them. These Titans are classified as unstable, their deployment restricted to the most desperate campaigns. But even then, they are never truly decommissioned. To do so would mean acknowledging that what dwells within them is not machinery, but a vast, accumulated grave. The Mechanicus insists this process is sacred necessity. That humanity cannot afford to waste viable neural matter. That each fragment of consciousness, no matter how damaged, still serves the Omniscia. But strip away the prayers and the logic reduces to something brutally simple. Titans consume minds, and the Imperium feeds them continuously. This is why new candidates are always needed. Why bloodlines are maintained. Why Forge Worlds never stop preparing replacements. The Titan is never satisfied. It is never complete. And every war adds new voices to its internal storm. By the time the final binding ritual begins, the candidate who will become Princeps is not joining a machine. They are being lowered into a crowd that will never let them leave. And once that union is sealed, the Titan will finally awaken, fully aware, fully armed, and very, very hungry. The moment of binding is not a ceremony. It is a trial by fire, measured in screams and synapses. For the candidate, there is no rehearsal, no second chance, no escape. Every modification, every psychological calibration, every year of preparation has led to this instant, the point at which human will meet a god that has no interest in obedience. The Titan does not awaken politely. It tests. It punishes. It consumes. When the candidate is seated at the command throne, the modalities surrounding them provide partial neural pathways, guiding signals and dampening feedback. But the Princeps is never alone. Thousands of partial consciousnesses churn beneath their awareness, writhing like storm-driven tides. These are echoes of prior candidates, of those who failed to integrate, of minds partially preserved and forced into servitude. Each has a fragment of fear, a shard of anger, a memory of pain. And all of them now press against the new mind, seeking dominance or release. The first connection is always violent. Sensory input floods the candidate's mind, far exceeding human limits. They feel every vibration in the hull, every fluctuation of reactor output, every movement of a single servo. Pain and exhilaration merge indistinguishably. Every nerve feels stretched to its breaking point. Every instinct screams to flee, yet the body cannot obey. The Titan is not testing skill, it is testing resilience. It is demanding submission, and it will accept nothing less. Those who hesitate, who falter, are consumed immediately. Neural rejection does not kill gently. The mind is overloaded, synapses burst, and what remains is a permanent echo, folded into the Titan's chorus. Many hear the screams of their predecessors even as they struggle to maintain coherence. Madness is not uncommon. Identity begins to dissolve within hours. The human mind, unprepared for the sheer scale of mental occupation required, begins to fracture, leaving only a hollow shell behind. And yet, some survive. Not through strength, but through adaptation. Their sense of self begins to merge with the machine, not as a union, but as an enforced coexistence. Thought patterns are overridden by algorithms designed to harmonize with the neural chorus. Emotions are suppressed. Memories are compartmentalized. The Princeps becomes both conductor and prisoner of a system that remembers more than it forgives. Even then, control is tenuous. Titans are not obedient servants. They are volatile, semi-sentient entities with centuries of stored resentment. Every weapon discharge, every step across the battlefield, is guided by a combination of human will and the accumulated impulses of countless minds crushed together. A single miscalculation can trigger violent feedback, leaving the Princeps permanently catatonic or worse, turned into another echo to fuel the next battle. By the end of this process, the Titan does not belong to its pilot. The pilot belongs to the Titan. Their thoughts are no longer private. Their fears, memories, and desires are shared with the machine and with the chorus of trapped minds. Victory, survival, even the act of breathing, everything is mediated through this living prison. The illusion of control is maintained only by constant vigilance and extreme mental discipline. This is the reality the Imperium hides behind hymns and banners. Titans are not servants of humanity. They are graves that walk, powered by the unwilling, maintained by devotion, and guided by minds that will never know freedom. And the binding ritual, the sacred rite that every candidate believes is honor, is in truth the moment they surrender fully, and irreversibly. From this point forward, there is no turning back. The Princeps has become part of the machine. The machine spirit has consumed their will. And the Titan, now fully awake, is ready to step into war. The Imperium has answers, of course, always convenient, always incomplete. Machine spirits are temperamental. Pilot error. Chaos interference. The reality is far darker. Titans do not merely act according to commands. They act according to the will of the minds trapped inside them, the Princeps, the Motorati, and the thousands of cognitive remnants fused into a single, volatile consciousness. Every Titan is a storm of human thought pressed into service, each fragment pulling in different directions, each echo carrying fear, rage, and memory. Over time, this internal pressure can become unbearable. Minds begin to clash. The Motorati, intended to stabilize and distribute neural load, sometimes falter. The Princeps, already struggling to maintain identity within the chorus, can be overwhelmed. A single unresolved trauma, a shard of a broken mind, can trigger violent feedback that spreads instantly throughout the Titan's systems. Weapons discharge unexpectedly. Servos jerk violently. Systems fail catastrophically. And because the Titan's core is semi-sentient, it does not merely shut down, it retaliates. Many of these incidents are hushed up. On worlds where Titans have gone rogue, records are sanitized, witnesses reassigned or terminated. After all, the Imperium cannot admit that its most celebrated war machines are walking nightmares capable of slaughtering allies as easily as enemies. To acknowledge the truth would provoke panic, rebellion, and doubt. It is easier to blame the pilot or call it a machine spirit temper. But those who have served as Princeps know the real danger. The Titan does not obey. It tolerates, it tests, it waits, and it remembers. Some Titans have existed for centuries, their internal neural chorus growing denser with every campaign. With each new integration, the number of human echoes inside them multiplies. Those who fail are not destroyed, they are assimilated. Their experiences, their emotions, their instinctive reactions become part of the machine's memory. Over decades, the Titan carries thousands of consciousnesses within it, each vying for dominance. Some factions within a Titan may even turn against the Princeps, forcing continuous mental and emotional labor to maintain equilibrium. The most terrifying aspect is the unpredictability. A Titan may serve loyally for decades, winning campaigns, crushing foes, and protecting the Imperium. Then, without warning, a latent conflict within its neural chorus can erupt. Entire planetary garrisons have been obliterated, not by enemy action, but by Titans losing cohesion, succumbing to internal revolt. To the outside world, it looks like a freak accident, a technical failure. To those who understand, it is a calculated, inevitable consequence of fusing too many human minds into a singular engine of war. In essence, Titans are alive, but not in a way the Imperium ever admits. They are monstrous amalgamations of thousands of stolen lives, forced into obedience through pain, ritual, and suppression. Their loyalty is conditional, tenuous, and precarious. The more minds contained, the greater the potential for revolt. Every war they fight is not just against enemies, but against themselves. And every Titan that marches onto a battlefield carries within it the history of suffering, betrayal, and fragmented identity, ready to surface at the slightest fracture. Understanding this is more than academic. It explains why Titans sometimes slaughter allies, why Princeps go mad mid-campaign, and why the Imperium continues to treat these machines with both reverence and fear. Titans are not mere instruments of war, they are vessels of living torment, unpredictable, dangerous, and almost impossible to control completely. And the Imperium accepts this, because the alternative, stopping Titan creation, would mean confronting the full cost of survival. The price, as history shows, is far too high for the Imperium to even consider paying. This is why Titans walk among humanity not as heroes, but as harbingers of what happens when power is bought with the minds of the living. By now, it should be clear, Titans are not simply weapons. They are living monuments to humanity's willingness to sacrifice its own. Each step they take is powered by countless lives broken, reshaped, and fused into a collective consciousness that remembers every pain, every scream, every failure. The Princeps, once a fully human mind, has been hollowed, conditioned, and bound. The motorati, and the residual echoes of failed candidates, swirl endlessly within the machine, forming a storm of memory and suffering that fuels every action. Titans are not controlled, they are inhabited. The Imperium knows this. Every fabricator general, every Magos biologist, every council of the Adeptus Mechanicus understands the magnitude of the atrocity. Yet the Imperium continues. Every battle, every conquest, every display of Titan might is a choice, a conscious decision to maintain a system that demands sacrifice on a scale most cannot imagine. Humanity survives, but only at the cost of the very people tasked with wielding its greatest symbols of power. Even after the battlefield is won, the cost does not end. The Princeps who survives decades of service may emerge physically fused to the Titan, their body and mind irreversibly altered. Many more are never separated from their machine. They exist inside it for centuries, drifting between consciousness and echo, their identities folded into the mechanical storm. The Titan is no longer just a weapon, it is a tomb. Its victories are written in blood and memories, not glory. And still, new minds are prepared. Children are raised to enter the system, conditioned from birth, broken from adolescence, and introduced to the horrors of integration. Titans never rest. Their hunger never ceases. They are perpetual engines of war, powered by what the Imperium refuses to recognize as human cost. Victory in the Imperium is never free. It is purchased with suffering, erasure, and the quiet, unrecorded deaths of the many who were never meant to be remembered.